Or so Casano thought. In fact, after the FB executives got off the phone, the accounts signed in the rooms with Sullivan and B. Singer to discuss what they had just heard in the first part of the meeting had been troubling of for Sullivan. This later part was even worse. One gets the sense, reading the notes on the meeting, that the Casano conversations was the last straw for the accounts. Plain Team 3 Ryan was not nearly as calm about the collateral as Casano had been. On the contrary, he was quite equated. He could see in a way the AIG executives themselves could not. From their poor risk management practice were creating problems. He listed some of the things that bothered him. The fact that FP had posted $2 billion in collateral without bothering to inform headquarters. The way FP was manning the evaluations process of the super seniors, the growing exposure at the securities lending program, and the fact that the risk managers had inexplicably allowed the securities lending program to increase its exposure to subprime securities at the same time that FP was reducing its exposure, with no conclusions had been reached. Ryan told Sullivan and Bessinger, according to the notes, we believe that these items together raise control concerns around risk management that could be a material weakness for Sullivan. There were two scaries were that materials weakets. If that would begin the account's conclusions, it would have to be disclosed to the investors, and that would be the best thing. He promised to do whatever he had to do to avoid such a declaration, and on that soaring note, the meeting finally ended. AIG had a long scheduled investors meeting set for Wednesday, December 5, 2007. The blind topic was the company's life insurance and retirement service business, but as the rumors continued to swirl about AIG's supremely exposure, Sullivan decided to change the focus. The company would talk instead about its credit default swap business, along with the rest of its exposure to the mortgage market. It was a very long meeting. Sullivan began by noting profitable over the past few years, its strong capital positions and cash flow, 30 billion in the first 9 months of 2007, and its lack of debt. We had the ability to hold evaluate investment to recovery. He hold investor. That's very important. AIG has very large long national amounts of exposure related to its super seniors credit derivatives portfolio, but because this business is careful underwriting and structured, we believe the probability that it will sustain an economic loss is close to zero. Over the course of the day, with a break for lunch, 14 AIG executives made presentations, including Casano, Foster, model expert Carrie Gordon, and Bob Lewis. Every one of them said essentially the same thing. There was little on the trains that to trench AIG had either insurance in the case of FP of both in the case of the AIG divisions could ever lose money. On the 14th, nobody said this more fervently or more often than Casano. We had an extremely low loss rate in these portfolios. The underlying reference obligations have a relative long downgrade migration from the rating agencies. He said in typical remark, it is very difficult to see how there can be any losses in the these portfolios for months earlier during an earnings call. Casano had made a similar make. It is hard for us, without being flippant, to even see a scenario that we'll see who's losing dollar in any of these transactions. The line would come back to haunt Casano as it was caught and nauseant in the aftermath of the crisis. At least half a dozen times he rolled out all the explanations he had been using to, to push back against Goldman, the due diligence that had gone into assembling the supreme tranche. AIG ensured the fact that it had little or no exposure to 2006 and 2007 vintage. The amount of subordinations in the CDOs AIG ensured, meaning that Hill would have to become close to freezing over before any of AIG super seniors defaulted. He acknowledged that FP was in the input dispute with counterparties over markets, but described these disagreements as partner games. There his major discounts in the market, he claimed, between what the market is doing versus the economic relativities of our portfolio. In other words, in Casano's view, the market was simply wrong, and since the market didn't understand the strength of AIG underlying collateral, he was demanded he was going to begin marking it down in any meaningful way. He did tell the gathering that AIG was writing down another Mayonin environment, but that was a pittance and the grand schemes of things. If you ask me how I manage the business, he said the it's the fundamental underwriting that is the first line of defense, the first line of protection, the first thing that gets you comfortable in this business, even now months after the collateral calls began. Kazan still cement, unable to comprehend that the issue he was facing had nothing to do with the fundamental underwriting of the CDO's insured. The issue was that the collateral triggers were putting the entire corporation at risk. AIG may have had plenty of capital, as Sullivan had suggested, but because it was an insurance company, that capital was strictly regulated and very little of it could be used to shore up as it faced the growing onslaught of collateral calls. The notions that was vulnerable because of its parents' financial strength, a notion the market had accepted for years, was suddenly exposed as giant illusions. It was just the opposite. Sudden vulnerability to liquidity risks was endangering the Langer company. Was That's what Casano didn't understand.